I think one of the most valuable things we can do is to free up our time. And if you happen to be doing something that you love and you wouldn't spend your time doing anything else, congratulations, this video isn't for you. But for those who are doing work where they feel like that this isn't their calling and they could be working on bigger and better stuff, then it's going to be very important that you free up your time. I've been working at this relentlessly for a couple of years now, and I've gotten myself to a point where I, on average, spend about 2 hours of work a week working on actual client stuff, and the rest of my time I work it on strategy. So within my own business or with creating a course for dentists, which I find a lot more fulfilling. So I want to talk a little bit about how I managed to do this and maybe give you some tips for how you can free your own time as well. Of course, the work still has to be done. So whatever it is that you're doing to make money at the moment, my channel is for dental practices. So if you're a dentist and you're doing that on a daily basis, then you have to figure out a way how you can continue to deliver that value. And of course, that's going to be through hiring an associate. And there's other things that you do too, which you can leverage other things like freelancers, you can outsource to agencies, you can hire someone abroad, you can look into virtual assistants, you can leverage AI now. So the list goes on. And I think the trap is that people don't focus on this work of freeing their time, that it's not something on their radar. And so they are stuck kind of working in the thing that they're already comfortable doing rather than doing the work of freeing their time. And this work is very different than what you might be used to. So it could be things like creating a SOP, standard operating procedures, so that someone who comes in can easily take over what you were doing before without much hassle. You might need to train them for a week or two, but after that, they've got it. And if they ever forget anything, they can refer back to the SOP. And if they really need help, then they can come back to you. But ultimately, it's going to free up a lot of time while also delivering a lot of the level of excellence that you were doing the thing previously. All right, so that comes to delegation. But another thing I want to cover is the idea of when to delegate, because I think we jump to delegation too fast. And this is something that is important when it comes to things like Blue Ocean strategy. But I'll talk about that in a second. So first step is what can you eliminate? Then what can you automate? And third, finally, then you delegate. And the reason I say we delegate too quickly is I think people have a very hard time understanding, first of all, automations and how to actually leverage that. And also elimination. People are very uncomfortable eliminating things, and they would rather hoard all the processes that they're doing because they're not too certain what works yet. And so the first step is to get very clear with what you have to eliminate. And that part of that is figuring out what works and what doesn't, what your patients find valuable and what they don't. And the reason I say that this lends to Blue Ocean strategy is because in Blue Ocean strategy, you're trying to provide unprecedented value along with unprecedented cost savings for yourself. And the cost savings can only come if you start eliminating things. And this is why it's such an important habit to start doing. So what are things that you're doing right now that don't deliver value to the patients you seek to serve? What are some things that you're doing right now that they don't care about at all? And these are things that you can eliminate. Then you get to automation. So after elimination, we have a handful of processes and things left to do. What can you automate? And the work here is figuring out, all right, what new technology is there? What new technology has come about in the last 5 years or so that can help you automate things? So what is a repetitive task that you're doing that some tool exists for you to automate so that you or your staff don't even have to worry about? And after you automate, and it turns out there's a lot of things that you can really automate, and I spent a lot of time automating a lot of things. After you automate, finally you can get into delegation. That's when you can ask for help, hire another person, or push the work that you need to someone else and ask them to do it. But we can't jump to delegation, because if we do, we miss out on a lot of the cost savings that come from elimination and automation. Right? So do this relentlessly. Look into what can you cut out. SEO was a big thing back in the day, and this is something that my agency used to do as well. I would have a dedicated team member who would focus only on SEO, and she would do the blog posts for all of our clients. She would do the Google Business Profile posts and all this other stuff. And I did it because everyone else was doing it, because it was an agency standard. So I figured if everyone else is doing it and I'm not doing it, clients might think we're a bit weird and wonder why we don't do SEO. But whenever we looked at the data, whenever we looked at the numbers, SEO was always underperforming. We would get maybe 2 people to click onto the website, like even though we were doing really well with SEO, or maybe the number was like 20 people. And that leads to like 0.2% of a patient. And so it wasn't really worthwhile for us to spend time doing it anymore. And so we just simply eliminated it. And so now what I was able to do was transfer that girl who was working on SEO and have her pick up advertising to learn advertising. And she was able to pick it up pretty quickly because we already had a senior and I already had an SOP in place for advertising that she was able to just learn and get the hang of it really quick. So what I was able to do was not fire someone, but I was able to transfer them to a more high leverage sort of work, where now she was able to assist the senior who is now focused more on strategy, and the girl who was previously working on SEO is now able to help with a lot of the implementation of that strategy. So clients' results improved. And this is what I'm talking about with elimination, is you can reorganize resources into better placed areas and also free up your time as well. All right, automation. We have a lot of automations in place, but the one that comes to mind is review responses. This used to be done manually, but now we can, with the help of AI and stuff, we can respond to reviews automatically. Saves us a lot of time. We don't have to have someone worrying about it or dedicated to it. Even things like lead forms, when someone submits a lead response, it can go automatically into a form. Very basic stuff, but automation is still important. And finally, delegation. All right, so if you're doing the work you love, like no one's gonna say, or no one should, or you shouldn't take anyone who says that you shouldn't be doing that. Time is limited, and so how you spend time, I think, is of utmost importance. And if you're doing something that you love, then that's fine. I don't think you have to feel like you have to reach for something higher just because someone says, or feel like you have to go any lower as well. But if you feel like your time could be better spent doing something else, yet the work you're still doing right now is how you make money, then spend some time doing the work of freeing your time. So rather than just doing the work of your work, how can you free your time? And we go back to the frameworks that I just talked about. And this is something that I also ask my employees to do. I also ask them to figure out how can you eliminate, automate, or delegate your own processes. And what they find is that they can create a lot of that value by elimination as well, or they can create automation so they have to work less. So they get paid the same amount, and ultimately they're working much less, and they find it a lot more enjoyable, obviously, because now they can spend their time doing better things. And I found that it has developed a very strong culture in my own company. All right, so free your time, find the ways to work on freeing your time, and it will really be life-changing. And I think you'll find a lot more fulfillment on what you're able to work on with freedom of choice on how you spend your time. All right, that's it for today's video. See you guys in the next one.